Hi everyone, it's nice to see you here. So, as you know, I'm Rita from Exits, or if you don't know, it's nice to meet you. So, I'm super excited to be here once again because it's not only our second live stream of the year, because we don't have only one speaker for today, we have two speakers. So, I think we're in for double the fun. But we'll get there in a second. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Rita, I'm part of Exits, and we're super excited to see you here in our YouTube channel. So, feel free to follow us not only here, subscribe us here, but also in our in all other social media channels that we have. Feel free to do a bit of research. We'll be happy to see you around those. And if you're not new to our live streams, it's super nice to see you here. And if you're watching this before in the recording, awesome too. So if you don't know what XX is, or if you have forgotten for a couple of seconds, we'll just give you a bit of a reminder. So XX is an engineering company focused on providing capacity to product companies. We're not typical project company due to a lot of factors, and that could be just talk by itself. But let's keep that as a thought for another live stream of ours. But we have a huge focus on community, a strong engineering culture, and a great product drive. X6 represents the perfect balance between projects and products, and our teams work across Portugal in building products while dealing with the broad stack. So if you want to know more about us, our content, our team, what we've been up to, so make sure to follow us not only here on YouTube, as I said before, but also on LinkedIn, on Twitter, Instagram, Medium. We think that we do some cool stuff there, so feel free to also follow us there. Today, we have, as I told you, not only one speaker, but two speakers. So we have Karina Varela and Otávio Santana as our speakers for the day, and they will be giving us a talk on the 5 skills you must master to be outstanding as a software engineer. So I think we have a lot of great insights here. So we're super excited for this one. There will be space for questions as always, so feel free to add them in the chat. We're going to go through them throughout the conversation. So yeah, let's get into that. Let's bring Otávio and Karina to the stage. Hello there, nice to see you.
Hello, Rita. How
Hi,
are you?
I'm good. How
Hello,
are
Karina.
you?
I'm fine. I'm so excited to be here again.
We're super excited to have you here as well. So I think we can get the show on the road if you agree. So I'll share your screen, and also in a bit, just a bit of a reminder, everyone. So if you have questions, feel free to, of course, leave them in the chat. We'll go through all of them. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, Otávio. Excited for
Hello.
today too? As much as
Yes.
Rita?
Yes. Who doesn't, right? So we come here to talk about career, and it's outstanding, amazing, also at some time. So it's impossible to mistake this presentation. So it's a so
That is
important
true.
one.
And I think that the first thing I should do in order to get started is to present you, introduce you, who is an amazing speaker and not only works today as a distinguished engineer at Zoop Innovation, but you are also a Java champion. You work for the Apache, you work with Eclipse. Also, you work not only like into building these communities and helping them move forward, but you help on the creation of Java itself. So it's a pleasure to be here with you today. And just for the
And
record,
how? Okay, go ahead.
like I would just like to highlight that if anyone is interested into seeing one of the several books you've written, they can go into your page, otaviojava.com. Is that right? And just
Yes.
sneak peek a little bit there.
Okay, right now the star of the show, Karina Varela. So she is amazing. She is principal technical marketing manager of the biggest company of open source in the whole world. So she is dealing with enterprise software in a global scale. So I usually talk about, okay, if you want to know more about Karina jobs, just look in the sky because she has software over there. She drives the key community. She's organized also Java. She's instructor around the globe. She is also a speaker in several conferences around the globe as well. So Russia, Latin America with the TDC, Joker, and Germany, and so on. And yes, she is an amazing book and blog writer as well. So if you want to know more about technology, if you want to improve your career, you want to learn more about open source, how can you engage to become a principal, a distinguished, and a staff engineer, you must to follow her. So it's a must to you, okay? But today is not to talk about us, Karina, unfortunately.
Exactly.
And yes,
But
he is a good and amazing friend as well.
still, like with all this background that we've collected together over these several years, uh, I bet that you, as I did in the past, we'd like to question ourselves like, what is the secret to succeed in a technical career? Because we do follow technical careers today. So, what are the key things we should follow and know in order to succeed here? So it would be good to if we could start by thinking about this. So how can we do this, Otavio? Any tips here?
Oh, the first point, right, is to understand what is successful career. How can I achieve this kind of thing? Because a successful to me might be different from you. For example, I want to be more technical, become principal, working mostly to open source, and you might be become a director or something more of management of engineers.
Yes,
Everybody has different
definitely.
goals, has different skills, and different dreams, right? So the first point that I'd like you to understand is what do you define or what do you understand about happiness?
And like
But
success is a personal thing. So the like you said, the meaning of success to me is not the same to you, and it's not the same to your mother. And I really like when you say this example because it's a clear this like it's a something that is really clear on my mind, like in the meaning of success. Can you just tell them this example
yes,
really
yes,
quick?
yes. The success definition is different to me and my mom. For example, to her, I should work in the public, should have a public job, and still live in Brazil with my own home. Right now, I'm live outside the country. Right now, I'm living in Europe. I'm not working a public service. To my mom, I did not achieve the success because I did not get any of those. So
See.
my mom is still sad with me until today.
And as you were talking about skills, there's a good thing we can do in order to get started with this conversation on skills. So, when talking about skills, we have two different types of skills. We have the soft skills and the hard skills, as we can see on the next slide. We will see on the soft skills that there are the soft skills are more meant into talking about your personal level of career. So let's say your adaptability skills, how much can you work within teams, can you do a good teamwork collaboration, do you have a good time management, can you self manage yourself, because some of the jobs out there will require this type of soft skills. Focus is a soft skills, and this one is getting harder and harder lately with these pandemics going on. And this is a there are some studies out there, Otavio, that says that the focus is getting uh, it's getting hard to have focus. Like it's across the globe, you know. And still, like conflict resolution and some other things. And there are the hard skills. Could you tell us a little bit about the hard skills, Otavio?
Yes, the hard skill are exact, like math, right? So we have precision. You have a follow, you have a flow. For example, every time that I put private string name equals Karina, the result will be the same, right? So it's hard. It's hard to change. It is part of the communication because I can do exactly the same feedback to you and Rita, and you might receive a different thoughts or have a different feelings from Rita, for example. Maybe to Rita I was so tough, and to you I was okay. So I need to be more adaptive, like water, in where in the cup I'm something, in the sea I'm another different shape, and the hard skill is more exactly like open the beer with my feet.
Yes, and some of the popular skills on the hard skill set that are required today are, for example, at least a basic knowledge of cloud computing. Even if you're just getting started as a developer or junior, you are required to know at least a little bit of infrastructure, containers, and cloud computing. That's just the basics. And other things like relational database, NoSQL, Linux. So these are other examples of hard skills. And if I were to mention, Otavio, you can see on the next slide, if I were to mention just of the five main soft skills to prioritize this year, I would say knowledge, that's the basic. And when talking about knowledge, that's what everybody thinks they need to invest on their time. They think it's all about knowledge increasing, but it's not only about upskilling the knowledge. You also have to think about how you can upskill your capability of focus, your focus capability. Okay, how do you communicate? If we're talking about communication, I'm not only talking about communication in your native language. So if you can only speak, if you're watching this, you are probably can speak English, but many of our other followers, they can only speak one specific language, let's say only Portuguese, only Spanish. And most of the knowledge that is shared today across the globe is shared mostly in English. So people who know English are one step ahead because they can not only communicate in like in spoken language, but they can learn faster because there's a broader set of books too. And there's a cool thing that you talk about, Otavio, that is talking to the person in the level of the heart, right? Do you know the phrase of Nelson Mandela by heart? I don't
Yes,
know it.
I know. I put in my heart. So Nelson Mandela used to say that if you want to taught the people mind, you can use English because it's become the international one. However, if you want to taught the people heart, please use the native language. So if you can, please explore more skill of communication such as Italian, Portuguese, French, Spanish, Chinese, German, whatever. So as much language you know, more people, more barrier you gonna break, and you will have more opportunities to see and to receive.
Yes, definitely. Finally, we can talk about handling the time. There are some different types of productivity tools and frameworks to help you handle the time and manage your time use and how you can use it and focus on what's needed. And finally, setting the objectives. But, Otavio, I think we need to discuss about the several different paths we can follow because we are talking about skills we need to have in order to master a technical career. But is there only one way to strive in this sense?
Yes, indeed, that is not right. So I can become a scientist. I might become a computer engineer, an architect, a cloud architect, and what else? Let me see. Front end master developer. I mean, the number of opportunities is huge where you can go. But one thing that you usually taught in the past, but please don't think about it anymore, is about the salary and the opportunity. Because in the past, we just thought, okay, I am not able to receive more opportunities. I must go to become a manager to receive a better job, to receive a better salary, to be more well received in the company itself. However, today it's not true. So I love this analogy between the soccer player and the coach because in this case, it's happened with IT. Right now, it's become more and more popular that they play soccer, especially when this person is a star, will receive more than the coach, especially because he is the person who will change the game, who will make the score. So the highlight here is, uh, yes, you as technical might receive good opportunities and better salaries, sometimes even better than a coach. But once you said that, Karina, what do you think if you go to our first tip?
Yes, let's do that.
So let's start it. The number one is everything has a trade-off.
It doesn't, like, today, if you think that the way to go is using microservices, I am going to use microservices because it's what everybody's talking about and it's the right thing to do. Or I am going to use event-driven architecture because that's the way to go. It's proven to be success in every architecture. Well, you might need to reveal your opinions there because unfortunately there's no such thing as a silver bullet. So none of these things can be considered, like none of these and many other things in the technology world can be considered a always do this, this is the right way to go every time, you can always do this. So there's not no such thing. Even programming languages we should not consider that way. So you should always review and make a consideration about the choices that you're making. Like, does this circle fits into my square? Am I using the right thing here into this scenario? Because if you just go every time with the same thing just because, you might probably be going to uh, commit some mistakes there one moment or the other. Because Otavio, like, and you're a Java lover, is Java suitable for every single problem in the world? Would you solve it with, like, any problem you have, would you call Java?
Yes, of course. No, right, Karina. I love this book here, Fundamentals of Software Architecture. And the first mandament of this book is there is no right or wrong answers in architecture, only trade-off. You must understand first the context and then apply the best tool to the best context, right? Uh, to solve this idea, please be pragmatic, and incremental. So like a Pokemon. So try to do step by step. Uh, think about the next step. Don't try to, okay, let's make the perfect code because the perfect code does not exist. You need to think about the business all the time. So what is the MVP of my business? Base the business, what the best solution? It's not about what I like or I'd like to, what I want to use, but the best definition to my shape or to my context.
Yes, and then there's another thing we should talk about, Otavio. That is knowing not what I'm going to use, but first, why, like, why should I pick this? And then how I'm going to apply it. So if you look at the Sinex golden circle, you will see that we have to start from the inner circles in this diagram to the outer circles. These golden circles that are presented by Sinex, it is supposed to help people selling better, marketing better, showing the like, why should someone acquire your product. I would say that as a person who needs to select technology basically every day, we need to not know what we are going to use but why we are picking this technology. This would be one of the most core things. And you should pay attention if you're just not following the herd, if you're not following every tech influencer out there. So if many success stories, there are also, that it is very likely also to exist many horror stories. As you can see, if you just Google today, like, Kubernetes horror stories, you will see several stories out there.
Yes, the mindset, okay, if Amazon will use, so I will use. Remember, you're not Amazon. You're not in context of Amazon. So please choose the right tool to the right moment, especially in your context. So there is two articles, Karin, that I love to highlight here. The first is a book about the 90 things every cloud engineer should know. And there is one chapter is specifically about it's okay if you're not running Kubernetes. Kubernetes is an amazing tool, but as any tools, there is things that you can do with it, and there is things that you're not able to use it. Okay, if you try to use a spoon as a fork, you might do several mistakes. It might be a nightmare to you. Also, you probably know Sam Newman, who wrote two books about microservice, and also he wrote an article about should I use microservice? And usually he said about okay, first put as priority, understand why, and then how. Usually he does not recommend to use microservice with startup. So if you are startup, you must focus first and deliver the MVP. So that's much easier when you go with monolith.
Yeah, and when talking about microservices, Otavio, people need to understand also that it's not if you just change the way you deliver software without changing the way your organization is structured, or the teams are, or the way that your teams are organized, or if you do not have all the things around the microservices term. So if you do not have, for example, automated CI/CD pipelines, a way to monitor and track these microservices to know what is going on there, you might just be falling into a trap. So be aware. So just not to fall into all these hypes and knowing exactly where you're giving your next step.
Yes. And let's go to the next topic, Corina. That is,
Prioritizing to upskill concepts instead of frameworks. It's pretty nice to say you
oh,
know.
it doesn't make sense. Why? I mean, Java is so cool, Quarkus. Do I really need to
Yeah,
understand the concepts? Does it make
the,
sense?
no, it really doesn't if you want to stay stuck with a single place in the market, or if you don't plan to ever grow in your career. Because one thing that I've learned during my years is that when I first specialized in JBoss, many years ago, Otavio, when I first specialized in JBoss, I was actually having an opportunity to specialize in Java EE, because JBoss was just an implementation and a way to deliver software that runs with Java EE. So once I learned how to manage and how all those things worked, I could not only work with JBoss application servers that is now today called Wildfly in the open source, but I could handle any of the other like Oracle, WebLogic, WebSphere. It's so similar because all of them follow the specification. The same goes for the other technologies today that we have that are following the microprofile spec, like Helidon, Payara Micro, Quarkus in the Java world. So if you learn about the specification, then you are going to be able to work with different technology sets. More than that, you are going to be able to observe if something that is happening in that specific environment that you are working with is actually a bug, because the specification says that it should work like this and not like that. So does this tool actually follow the specification like it says it does? So you should be aware of these things, and this is worth not only for the runtimes environment but also for the implementation itself. So if you're talking about JPA and you have Hibernate and several others, and the same goes for every other space in the technology set.
Yeah, that's a good point, right, Karina? Especially because, okay, I want to use MySQL. And if you want to succeed in software engineer, you need to understand that software engineer is much more than a single language. There are approaches, there are concepts, there are methodologies, there are ideas. So language language be programmer is a small piece of a software engineer. Okay, again, be a programmer is a small piece of the whole activities that a senior software engineer should do. Okay, especially when you talk about uh, approach and concepts. You need to understand when should I use procedural, object-oriented, parallel processing, the imperative, the declarative, APIs, because again, everything has a trade-off. When you go to database, you need to understand the CAP theorem. When you go to distributed data system, you need to remember the 3C: consistency, communication, and the last one is consistency, communication, and choreography. Okay, so those are three concepts that you must to follow. You understand? And as consequence, what's gonna happen if I just put technology because I want to use and I don't care about the why, I don't care about the concepts, and something goes wrong? It's terrible, right? So basically, what's happening is the consequence is I put a huge complexity in something that does not make sense. Okay? Remember that every single time that you put something that you don't understand. I saw the hello world and it looks amazing. Yes, but in the real world, you need to do something more than a single hello word. But let's go to the next step. Let's move on.
Otávio, is documentation really software?
Oh, no, I don't think so. Who cares about documentation, right? It's not happen. Nobody needs to use it. Nobody needs to read. Everybody needs to read my code and automatically understand the whole context.
Right? So I really like the statement that you put out here, like that everything I need to remember, I'll forget. So when we are talking about software and not only the codes and the code that we create, but even the decisions, as we are going to discuss a little bit further, like even the decisions need to be documented. So once you get new hires on your team, do you really need to sit with them every time to explain every single piece of module that you have in your software? What if you already have a bunch of microservices or a bunch of services delivered out there, like more than 15? Will you have to explain how do they communicate with each other? Why did you choose that architecture? What are the APIs there? Like what are the formats and the expected payloads? So all of this is really, really important when we are talking about software. And it's not only about the knowledge, knowledge transfer from you that is today in the company, in the company, to new hires. What if you decide to leave the company for whatever reason, and then the company, like, and everybody who's working on that software is just going to be helpless because the person who had all the information is just not gone. So you might just make all the software go stale because you're not there anymore. So we need to pay attention to this, right?
Yes, there is some discussion about self-documentation statements. Okay, comments are great example of something that seems like a good thing, but turn out to cause more harm than good. Uh, there is several books, an amazing book, and every time that I talk about a good code, some people answer with, no, if we are doing a good code, you don't need to write a good documentation. Unfortunately, it's not true. Please forget about it. I mean, right now, the biggest software that everybody using, everybody is using right now, such as a language, for example, Java, Kotlin, Go, C++, has documentation in the code. The biggest softwares around the world in the Red Hat has documentation. So yes, you need to write a good code. You don't not able to use documentation as excuse to write a bad code, like a real code, right? With a thousand of if and else. But it does not mean that, okay, forget about documentation. Everybody needs, will take a look and we will understand everything. You must to write a good code. Yes, you have DDD, domain-driven design. You have DSL. You have several articles and books, especially about clean code. But documentation is important key, right, Karina?
Yes, definitely. And if you look at the several, there are several examples out there in GitHub, but I really like this example here. So we have a documentation for the documentation. So if you want to contribute to the documentation of a specific software like Druze or JPPM, you can find, if you want to contribute to the documentation of it, you have a documentation on how to contribute there. What are the guidelines, not only the community guidelines, but like the developer guidelines, how is the expected flow, how do you send a pull request, and how do you run it in your machine. So there is no, it is not only about documenting the code, Otavio, but even the documentation of your software sometimes needs to be documented too, if not all of the times. What about the decisions? Should we document why we make decisions and when it's we make it?
Yes, please do it, especially because new people coming, new people are leaving, is leaving, so everybody happen, everything happen in the real world, right? So fortunately people find new opportunities, people die, people retired. So please document your decision as well. So we have a C4 model to document, to define the architecture. You can think about a map or Google Maps where you can do a zoom in and zoom out in your architecture. Basically four C's. So the first one is the context, and the last one is the code. Please take a look in the C4, the tech radar to map the technologies that you are running, the architecture decision records to define what you did, what did you learn in the next step, especially because you it's not cool that you did the same mistake twice. Please document to avoid the same mistake twice. And with the decision in architecture is better so everybody will understand the post-mortem, things like that. Okay,
And there's
please.
another scenario like right, Otavio. If you go to a company today and you see that it's a mess, you would probably like to understand how they got here, because I know and everybody knows that every single decision that is made, it has a reason why it was made. So even if it is a mess today, why were these decisions made in the past? So it would be really critical to have all this documented.
Yes,
Really
and let's move
good.
on to the. Sorry, go ahead.
No, really good. That's what I was saying.
Okay, let's go to the next tip. That is dun, 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 dun. Working closely with the business team is expected from software engineers.
Yeah, many
Oh,
software engineers, Otavio, they just think that they don't need to deal with people. Many you can see out there saying that, oh, I chose this career because I can just deal only with my computer, don't need to handle people. It's not my thing. So that's why I'm a developer. So does it match reality?
oh, fortunately, no, right? So technology usually we are exception in the market, right, Karina? We are technology creators, but usually the technology is a mean to the end. So in general, people write code to internet banking, to e-commerce, any kind of software delivery, and so on. So I know there is this amazing book, Il Principe, by Machiavelli, but technology is a problem solver, especially in data documentation. And remember that. So technology is really, really important to us, but it's a tool. Don't use with love.
Yeah. And many forget this. Like if you look even in the process space, in the process business process management space, there's a whole practice out there that is meant for to help organizations improve their efficiency. And it's not based on technology, Otavio. That's the most interesting thing. They have a whole practice, a whole framework that is not based on technology. Technology can be used to help them achieving their goals and mapping stuff, but it's not a must. You do not need it in order to achieve the final results, you see. So many people who are, when they are starting the developer career, they look at the smaller pieces itself. They look at the tree, not at the forest. So I think that this is one of the big problems out there in many, with many engineers that I met,
Yes.
especially
And
when user come asking like, can you just fix this small box here in the screen? So the user is the big enemy, right?
yes, oh, come on, let's put this button here, just a button. That might change everything in your single life. Yes, a single button to change the gravity of the world. So why not, right? It's just a single button. But unfortunately, user is not an enemy. It's your client. You need to think twice. You need to focus in a customer centric. Because if you don't have a user, you don't have a client. If you don't have clients, the business does not make sense. You probably might be fired.
And
So
there are different uses there because you can look at the person who's requesting the software. That's your business user, the person who actually has the knowledge on what needs to be developed. And there's the final user. That's the person who's going to access your app or your application and interact with it. So we have different types of users, and none of them is your enemy, right? So if you've developed something and the people and people are not being able to use, this is your team's mistake because you didn't create something that has enough UX to be interactive enough, or that people can just look at it and understand what needs to be done in order to achieve their goals. So it doesn't matter, just be friends with them. They can help you improving what you're developing and delivering. And in order to do that, Otavio, we need to break down the silos. How do we break down the silos? Any tips?
yes, integrations, conference, chapters. Please, if you take a look in the whole software development history, we have agile methodology, right, to make a tight integration between users and the developer team. And based on that, we have several sons or several consequence of that. Okay, so with Agile, we want to make tight integration between developers and users. In the developer perspective, we had the DDD, domain-driven design, where we decided to write a code closer to the business with several details. We also have the DevOps culture to put the operation team to work closely with the developer team, operation in developers to work together, DevSecOps. We put one more team to work together, the security team. Uh, the integration should matter, right? That's why the size of the team is also important. You probably saw the article about a team that should not be to bigger than slide of pizza, two pizza units.
And
And it,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Otavio.
no, 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 go ahead.
No, yeah, I was just going to share one main tip in order to help you breaking down the silos. Each one is to understand what is the place, the communication that is blurred in between the two teams. So if you look, for example, in between the team of developers and the team of of ops, because today the DevOps concept is pretty spread across the communities. But if you look at these two teams, the problem is that before, the developer team, the development team, and the ops team, they didn't have a single way to communicate. After the adoption of containers, for example, this communication got easier because both could speak the same language. So the developers learned how to deliver something that was easy for the IT to deliver every time the same way. So the ops team, I'm sorry, didn't need to learn, for example, how to deliver PHP applications and then Python applications and then Java applications. They only needed to learn how to deliver containers, so they could find a place in between so that both teams could just handle the knowledge from one side to the other. If you find a way to do this across other teams, this will also be the key to success. So if you're talking, for example, on a business team and a developers team, there are ways for the business team to represent their knowledge in standards, like well-known standards in the market, like BPMN, DMN, CMMN, and this all can be used within software, within your traditional Java application packaged as a jar, and this will be executable. It's executable. So it is a thing in the middle that both teams can see, understand, and handle easily. So this is the key for you to break down the silos in between teams. So you just need to understand what is that one thing that can make teams communicate better, and then the rest will be easier for you to handle.
Yeah, that's a good point, right, Karina? Especially integration, and integration. So break down the silos between teams, areas, everything. Because sometimes less bureaucracy, actually, usually less bureaucracy is more result, right? So the agile methodology talked about that, and every experience that you saw, we talk about it. Okay, so break down the silos, and that is it. So thank you, everybody. Hope that you enjoy our presentation today. Again, please follow her, Karina Varela. So key Varel 4 on Twitter and on LinkedIn and whatever, because she has amazing tips and knowledge about software development, especially if you want to achieve a principal and senior career as an engineer.
And the same is valid for Otavio. Just follow him on Twitter, LinkedIn, Otavio Java. You can find him everywhere. It's the same nickname. And you will not regret it, I'm sure. Thank you so much for listening and for being here with us today. It was a pleasure.
And also, please follow XGeeks. So if you're looking to a new opportunity in your career, if you want to know more about news around software development, especially if you are from Portugal, please join XGeeks in the social media and also maybe in the jobs.
Thank you so much, Karina Otávio. It was great to have you once again. It's always great content, so thank you for that. Exactly as you mentioned, so over there at home, if you're not sure what accounts and content to follow, you know what to do. Make sure to not only follow Otávio, but also Karina and also XGeeks. And of course, we'll be looking forward to seeing you in the next live streams. And yeah, we'll see you around. Have a great rest of your week, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.